Has David Sullivan finally done something right at West Ham United? Now, I know this may sound a little bit far-fetched, but with the recent discovery that West Ham are looking to hire a recruitment analysis assistant, um, it is quite possible that West Ham United may have finally developed their very own data-driven analysis system that could be a match or even better than the one used at Brighton. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that may have been developed in a moment. If you're new to this West Ham voice, the first time that you're watching the channel, or if you've watched me before but yet to become a subscriber, please do consider subscribing. Costs nothing to subscribe. All the content is free. But at the end of the show, if you've enjoyed the content, please make sure you hit the like button. So going back to, have we developed a system? It could be that something that maybe David Sullivan has finally done right, where maybe we have finally invested in the future of West Ham in the way that we scout footballers. You see, for years, it's been common knowledge to West Ham fans that Sullivan has been quite envious of the data-driven analysis system that Tony Bloom has developed at Brighton. Now, Brighton have been successful in finding talent from around the world at reasonably low transfer fees, and then seeing them blossom at the club, succeeding in the Premier League, and then Brighton selling these players on at huge profits in order to invest that money into the latest batch of players that have been identified through this data analysis system. Now, I know many fans are going to go, well, hang on a minute. Brighton's success was mainly down to the fact that Dan Ashworth was at the club, hence why they managed to scout such talent. But much has been made of the data-driven analysis system at Brighton to scout footballers that I would argue that this approach or this system that they've used has been as important, if probably more so, than Dan Ashworth's input. Now, could it be that Ashworth was just a deal closer, much like Tim Steidten was at West Ham? It's highly possible that it was McCauley using this data-driven system that did all the scouting, and it was Ashworth that was just sealing all the deals. Now, unfortunately for us, this is where our system could possibly go a bit wrong. We no longer have the likes of Tim Steidten to close deals. And now we've got to rely on Karen, my final offer, Brady, or David Sullivan to do this. And we know how bad that can go. So even if we have developed a system to help us identify some of the best young talent around, are we in a position to be able to close the deals properly? I guess that's for another show at another time. Now, what's obvious is that data analysis to scout players is here to stay. And other clubs have systematically adopted the same methods of scouting to a good level of success, both here in the Premier League and abroad. Now, I talked about this in a recent show the other week, where I mentioned the likes of Liverpool have used data-driven analysis to find players, as have Brentford, Man City, across the board, really, to be quite honest with you. It's not just big clubs that are doing this, but smaller clubs as well. Now, whilst at Brighton, it's believed that Carl McCauley used data-driven analysis to identify players such as Moses Caicedo, Karu Mitoma, Simon Adingra, Alexis McAllister, as well as Mark Cucurella and Leandro Trossard. Now, if that's the case, then that's a pretty good list of players, an impressive roster of players to have brought to Brighton during McCauley's tenure there. And now, as I've mentioned, with West Ham advertising for a recruitment support analyst, I wonder if we've finally caught up with the Joneses who live in Brighton. Could it be that under the guidance of Maximilian Hahn, West Ham have created something of their own version of what Bloom has got at Brighton? If that's the case, then this could be a game changer for West Ham United in the way that we go about our transfer business. And it seems that this system, if it is a system that we've got now, is ready for the summer transfer window, which opens in just over 3 weeks from now. Now, as far as Max Hahn's concerned, if you remember, it was Tim Steiden who brought the data analyst to West Ham in the first place back in January 2024. Now, to be honest, I for one thought that when Steiden left West Ham United, Hahn would have followed suit, but that's not been the case. So, how would we have developed such a system to analyze player data? Well, known for his data centric approach, Hahn is regarded as a data analytical guru in the world of football, and his current role is head of technical recruitment and analysis at West Ham, which is kind of similar to the roles that he had in previous clubs such as Werder Bremen. Now, he's given lectures on the subject and is regarded as a leading light in this area. So, if there's anybody that would have had the knowledge as to what is required to develop such a system, then I think someone like Maximilian Hahn would be one of those people. Now, in addition to Carl McCauley and Hahn, Dylan Carnell, a boyhood West Ham fan, was promoted to the role of first team recruitment analyst back in December 2023. He graduated from the University of Brighton with first class honours degree in sports science, as well as completing a master's degree in sports performance. Additionally, West Ham also have a long-standing partnership with Analytics FC. Now, they're not the only Premier League club that does, but they've got a long-standing relationship, I think, going back to around 2018. And they utilize their Transfer Lab platform to track players over 50 competitions globally. So, between these three individuals, it's very possible that we have developed a system that could be as good as, if not better than, what Tony Bloom has got at Brighton. Although West Ham have used data analytics in the past, it was not likely to be to this sort of level. And we all know that it wasn't necessarily the favoured system for scouting players by David Moyes. But since his departure, well, actually, not since his departure, since his last season at West Ham, if this area of scouting was to be ramped up, he knew that his time for looking after transfers was coming to an end. If you think about it, Moyes would have been all too aware of the future approach, given that Cornell was appointed in December 2023, Hahn being appointed a month later. And of course, we all know about the contract extension he was offered, which did not include responsibilities for recruiting of players. In fact, Moyes made a veiled reference, didn't he, to the need of needing a high level of experience at a football club when it came to recruiting talent, and that data scouting was not really his preferred choice. Now, Moyes is right to an extent, because traditional methods of scouting still have a place in football, so it can't all just be down to data analysis, or can it? Now, the new role of recruitment support analyst includes video analysis and editing. In other words, compiling video dossiers of targets that West Ham are looking at. Data and insight analysis of a player performance is also included, as well as the individual that goes for this job has got to be adept with AI, where the analyst needs to be able to interpret and evaluate outputs from AI to enhance scouting accuracy and player comparisons. Now, if we have developed a system that can churn out vast quantities of data to analyze, then this will clearly need additional resource to help turn that quantity into quality data for transfer decisions to be made. And this could be the reason why we're beginning to hear links of players who don't necessarily have a high transfer value and are not necessarily that well known across the footballing world. For example, we've recently been linked to 21-year-old Mexican international right back Rodrigo Huescas, who currently plays for FC Copenhagen and is valued at around £5 million. Now, you're going to ask, well, why do we need another right back? Well, at 5 million, very likely to be a backup, given that we think Vladimir Sufal is going to be leaving the club. Now, apparently, Huescas is going to have to serve time in jail oh, where he is because of some driving offence that he's been involved in. But anyway, just an example. Next up is box-to-box midfielder Morton Frendrup, who plays for Italian club Genoa and is a Danish international. Now, at 24, Frendrup is an excellent talent and could be the driving force that we need in central midfield and is valued at around 20 to 25 billion pounds. And then there is 23-year-old striker Matthias Kvistgaarden. I'm going to get it wrong, so I'll go with Kvistgaarden of Brøndby, who has had a superb season at the Danish club, having scored 22 goals in all competitions in 35 appearances this season. And he's valued at something like around 10 to 15 million pounds. So if these are the sort of targets that McCauley is finding with the use of his data-driven analytics, and then he's already doing a pretty decent job to identify what we need at the club this summer at a very decent price. Now, like I've stated before, it would not surprise me in the least if we don't spend much more than, say, 25 million pounds for any one player, because I believe now the focus is on younger players who are hungry to make it in the Premier League, rather than going for expensive players who would be looking for European football with a fat paycheck to go with it. This new approach could really revolutionize the way we do our future transfers at West Ham, and it gives me far more confidence going into this summer's transfer window than I had previously. If you've enjoyed the content, please do leave your comments. Tell me what you think of whether we have developed such a system. And I know you're all going to say, well, under Sullivan, well, there's no way we're going to be able to get these players because he'll mess up the transfer deals. But put that aside for a moment and tell me what you think of the prospect of us having created a system to be able to identify talents. Leave your comments. Please do. If you're new to the channel, like I said, please do subscribe. And please do hit the like button after this video has ended. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you all very soon.